rascal. he was
Right.
he was a rascal. I mean, he could just put people. Sometimes I would sit and I'd watch him and I think, what's he going to do next?
I Dream of Jeannie was one of those shows that seemed like pure magic. When it first appeared on television in 1965, starring Barbara Eden as Jeannie, a 2,000-year-old Jeannie, and Larry Hagman as Major Tony Nelson, an astronaut who finds her bottle, on a deserted island, the show had a fun and imaginative storyline. The idea of a genie who could blink and make anything happen was exciting for viewers. Every week, fans would tune in to see what kind of trouble Jeannie might get into, and how Major Nelson would try to cover it up. It was funny, full of energy, and something very different from other shows of that time. However, things weren't as smooth behind the scenes as they looked on screen. The show started off in black and white because the network, NBC, didn't want to spend extra money filming in color. Most other shows were already switching to color, and this made I Dream of Jeannie look a bit outdated. Sidney Sheldon, the creator of the show, believed in the idea so much that he offered to pay the extra costs himself to film in color, but the executives turned him down. They didn't think the show would last, so they didn't want to invest in it. Luckily, the first season was a hit with audiences, and NBC changed its mind. From season 2 onward, the show was filmed in color, and Jeannie's pink costume and magical bottle really came to life on screen. While the show was gaining popularity, not everything was going well between the cast and crew. From the very first day of shooting, tensions started to show. Actor Bill Daly, who played Major Healy, was upset that some of the other cast members didn't seem to know their lines. He even threatened to quit on the first day. Sidney Sheldon had to step in quickly. He pulled Larry Hagman aside and asked why he didn't know his lines. Hagman responded that he actually did know them, but thought they would improvise or change things up on set. That wasn't allowed in television, especially during that time, so Sheldon told him to stick to the script. As for Bill Daly, he admitted he wasn't used to memorizing lines since he came from a stand-up comedy background. To fix this, the team gave him a tape recorder so he could listen to his lines in the car. It worked, and things settled down. After that, but this wasn't the only problem. As the show went on, Larry Hagman began to feel frustrated with the writing. He said the show kept using the same kinds of stories again and again. He wanted more variety, better writing, and fresh ideas. When he didn't get what he wanted, he considered leaving the show altogether. His mother even told him not to walk away from a hit show, warning him that people would think he was difficult to work with and that it would hurt his career. So instead of quitting, Hagman asked for a raise. He was earning around $2,000 an episode and asked for $5,000. To his surprise, the studio agreed. This gave him more motivation to stay. But he still didn't stop pushing for better scripts. Barbara Eden, on the other hand, was the calm center of the show. She was always professional, always prepared, and often helped keep things on track. Many people believe the show lasted as long as it did because of her steady presence. Despite the tension, the cast delivered funny and memorable episodes, and Jeannie became a pop culture icon. Her bottle, which was actually a repurposed liquor bottle, became one of the most recognized props in television history. The show's special effects were also creative for the time. To make Jeannie look like she was tiny inside the bottle, the crew used oversized props. For example, they would build a giant vase or chair, so when Barbara Eden stood beside it, looked like she was inside a small world. Despite these creative efforts, the show always had a hard time getting very high ratings. It was never one of the top-rated shows, and that made the network nervous. As television became more competitive in the late 1960s, NBC started thinking about ways to boost viewership. They came up with a bold idea to have Jeannie and Major Nelson get married. On the surface, it seemed like a good move. Maybe a wedding would bring in curious viewers and increase ratings, but in reality, it was a decision that changed the whole feeling of the show. When NBC decided that Jeannie and Major Nelson should get married, many fans were excited at first. People loved the characters and thought a wedding would be romantic, but something unexpected happened. After the wedding episode aired, the charm of the show started to fade. One of the biggest joys of watching I Dream of Jeannie was the mystery and tension between the two characters. They cared about each other, but nothing was certain. Fans liked wondering whether they would ever confess their feelings or stay just friends. When the show turned them into a married couple, that mystery disappeared. Barbara Eden herself later said the wedding was a mistake. It didn't feel true to the story or the characters. It felt like something done just to get attention. Larry Hagman also felt the same. He believed the show worked best when there was magic, fun, and a bit of chaos. After the wedding, it became more like a regular sitcom, and viewers slowly lost interest. The ratings dropped even more, and NBC quietly made a decision they would not renew I Dream of Jeannie for a 6th season. The way the cast found out about the cancellation was shocking. Larry Hagman had taken a short vacation to visit his mother in South America. When he returned, he went to the studio to pick up something from his dressing room. As he pulled up to the gate, the security guard stopped him. He said, "Mr. Hagman, the show's been canceled." That was the first he heard about it. No call, no letter, no meeting. just a quiet sudden end from someone at the gate. Hagman was stunned. He later said, "That's Hollywood." Even his agent hadn't known, or if they did, they hadn't told him. The abrupt ending felt cold and unfair. After 5 years of hard work and dedication, everyone had expected at least a proper farewell. Instead, it was over in a flash. The crew was just told to pack up. There was no final wrap party or goodbye episode, just silence. Even the fans didn't get a proper ending to the story. One day, the show was on TV. The next day, it was gone. But the impact the show left behind was lasting. It introduced millions of viewers to a new kind of fantasy storytelling. At a time when other sitcoms focused on families or workplace jokes, I Dream of Jeannie brought magic, mystery, and laughter into people's homes. Jeannie could blink and make anything happen, whether it was creating a palace, teleporting across the world, or making someone fall in love. The possibilities were endless. This kept the show fresh and fun, even when the writing became repetitive. Behind the scenes, though, Larry Hagman was dealing with more than just script problems. The pressure of leading a hit show was starting to wear on him. He began using prescribed stimulants to stay awake and alert. He smoked heavily, and his mood often changed. He became known for being difficult on set, arguing with writers, questioning scripts, and showing up late. Eventually, all this stress caught up with him. He had what he later described as a nervous breakdown. A friend helped him find a therapist, and for a while he stepped back from some of the chaos. He eventually got help, and later in life, he looked back at Jeannie with mixed feelings, grateful for the success, but aware of how much it had cost him emotionally. Barbara Eden, on the other hand, stayed strong through it all. She was always ready to work and rarely complained. Fans loved her, and she became the face of the show. Even today, people recognize her as Jeannie, and she often speaks fondly of the experience. Despite the struggles, for her, it was more than just a job. It was a role that changed her life forever. Even though I Dream of Jeannie ended without warning, its magic didn't fade. In fact, over the years, it became even more popular. Reruns of the show played for decades on TV networks around the world. New generations discovered Jeannie's charm and the silly fun of her adventures with Major Nelson. The show's simple message that anything is possible with a little imagination continued to touch hearts. Fans collected merchandise, dressed up like Jeannie for costume parties, and even visited the house used in the show, which became a tourist spot. The show also had a lasting effect on television as a whole. It inspired other magical comedies like Bewitched, and later shows such as Sabrina the Teenage Witch. These shows followed the same idea: what happens when a magical woman lives in a normal world? But none could quite match the unique chemistry between Barbara Eden and Larry Hagman. Their playful arguments, their caring glances, and their strange but sweet connection made the show special. In the years that followed, the cast reunited a few times for interviews, documentaries, and special events. Barbara Eden even wrote a book about her time on the show. She shared funny moments, tough memories, and the love she still felt from fans. People would come up to her and say, "I grew up watching you," or "You were my childhood." That meant a lot to her. She always said that Jeannie wasn't just a role. She was a friend to millions of people who needed to smile. Larry Hagman also went on to do other famous roles, like J.R. Ewing in Dallas, but fans never forgot his time as Major Nelson. He later said that despite all the trouble, I Dream of Jeannie gave him his big break. It gave him fame, money, and a chance to prove himself. And while he wished some things had gone differently, he never denied how important the show was. In his life, the show's creators, writers, and crew also looked back with pride. They knew they had created something timeless. The bottle, the blink, the jokes, all of it, became part of TV history. It proved that even when networks didn't believe in a show, fans could make it a success. And it showed that sometimes, the most unusual ideas, a genie and an astronaut, could become something unforgettable. Today, I Dream of Jeannie continues to inspire. Fans watch it on streaming services, collectors buy rare items, young viewers laugh at the same jokes their grandparents once did. It's a reminder that magic never really goes out of style, and while the show may have ended suddenly, its spirit lives on in every blink, every laugh, and every memory it left behind. I Dream of Jeannie was a funny and magical TV show that many people loved during the 1960s. It followed the story of an astronaut named Major Tony Nelson and a genie named Jeannie who lived in a bottle. Every week, Jeannie would try to help Major Nelson, but things usually didn't go as planned. The show made people laugh, and it gave families a fun escape from real life. But behind the scenes, things were not as perfect as they seemed. The stars of the show had to deal with some very big problems, both personally and professionally. Larry Hagman, who played Major Nelson, had serious struggles during the show's filming. Even though he looked happy and confident on TV, in real life, he was facing a lot of pressure. Larry started drinking heavily and sometimes even drank up to 5 bottles of champagne in one day. He also took diet pills that were actually his wife's medication just to have enough energy to get through the day. These pills were dangerous, and they became a real problem for him. After the pills were banned, Larry was finally able to begin his journey to recovery. but the damage to his health had already been done. Years later, in 1995, he needed a liver transplant to save his life. Despite these serious challenges, Larry still worked hard on the show. He wanted every scene to be just right, and took his acting very seriously. He didn't want to mess up, or disappoint the fans. But because he was so focused on being perfect, he became stressed, and sometimes acted out. Luckily, he had a friend named Ted Flicker who suggested that Larry go to therapy. This turned out to be a very good idea because it helped Larry deal with his problems and get better mentally. The creator of the show, Sidney Sheldon, stood by Larry even during tough times. Sidney believed in him and saw how much Larry cared about the show and his role. At the same time, Barbara Eden, who played Jeannie, was also dealing with something big. When she was first chosen to play Jeannie, she found out she was pregnant. Normally, that could mean an actress might be replaced, but the producers made a different choice. Instead of letting her go, they decided to find creative ways to keep her on the show. They used big, flowing costumes, put her behind furniture, and even changed the way the camera filmed scenes so the audience wouldn't notice her growing belly. Barbara joked that she looked like a walking tent because she wore so many scarves and loose outfits. One day, a director came to her with a tiny red bikini and asked her to wear it. She refused and finally had to tell him she was pregnant. He was shocked but respected her honesty. Even with her pregnancy, Barbara's performance didn't suffer. She was full of energy, charm, and comedic timing. She never let her personal situation affect the quality of her work, and fans at home had no idea what she was going through. Barbara also had a big role in choosing how Jeannie looked. She wanted her costume to show Jeannie's bright and playful personality, so she picked a pink top and maroon pants. The famous bottle that Jeannie lived in wasn't a fancy prop made just for the show. It was actually an old Jim Beam liquor bottle that was cleaned, painted, and turned into Jeannie's magical home. 2 film scenes inside the bottle. Barbara had to climb an 8-foot ladder onto a separate set. It wasn't easy, but she always did it with a smile. These little details, the costume, the bottle, the colorful sets, helped make the show special and fun to watch. But while things looked bright on the surface, there was a big problem coming that would eventually hurt the show. That problem was the decision to get Jeannie and Major Nelson married. The show had always been based on fun and mystery. The question of will they or won't they kept fans coming back. Jeannie clearly loved Major Nelson, but he was always trying to keep things professional. That playful tension made every episode exciting, but then the network stepped in and told the creators that the two characters had to get married in season 5. Sidney Sheldon didn't like this idea. He warned that once they were married, the excitement would disappear. Sidney Sheldon was very smart and understood how storytelling worked. He tried to explain to the network that what made I Dream of Jeannie special was the fun and flirty relationship between Jeannie and Major Nelson. They were like two puzzle pieces that didn't quite fit, but that's what made the show work. Fans liked the guessing, the funny moments, and the close calls. When the characters got married, all that fun tension was gone, but the people in charge of the network didn't see it that way. They believed that if the characters didn't get married, the show would become inappropriate or confusing. They were worried about a man and a woman living together and not being married, even though the show was clearly innocent and family-friendly. So they gave Sheldon an ultimatum. Either the characters get married, or the show gets cancelled. Sheldon didn't have a choice. He agreed to the marriage storyline, even though he knew it would hurt the show. The wedding episode aired, and things changed immediately. After Jeannie and Major Nelson got married, the episodes felt different. There was no more mystery, no more playful hiding, no more fun misunderstandings. Instead, it felt like just another couple on TV. Viewers started to lose interest, and soon after, the show was cancelled. What was supposed to save the show had actually ended it. It's sad because it shows how one bad decision forced by people outside the creative team can ruin something beautiful. But this wasn't the first time the network made strange decisions. Even in the early seasons, they tried to control how the characters acted with each other. They sent Sidney Sheldon a 15-page letter full of rules. The letter told him not to let Jeannie and Major Nelson touch each other, not to let them hold hands, and not to let them look at each other in a way that might seem too romantic. They even gave rules about how Jeannie could serve coffee to Major Nelson. It was all very strict and unnecessary. Sheldon thought these rules were silly because the show was meant to be lighthearted and fun. It wasn't about sex or anything. Inappropriate IT was about magic, friendship, and funny situations. Over time, the network stopped sending those letters, but their influence was still there. The marriage storyline was the biggest example of that. Even though Sheldon tried to protect the heart of the show, he had to follow orders. And that decision broke the magic spell that had kept fans watching for years. While all this was happening, other people on the show were also trying their best. Bill Daly, who played Major Healy, was a big part of the comedy. He was goofy, kind-hearted, and often added a lot of laughter to each episode. But Bill wasn't a trained actor when he got the part. In fact, he was surprised he got it at all. He once asked Sidney Sheldon why he chose him, and Sheldon said, "I don't know, I just saw something in you." That was enough. Bill worked hard and soon became a fan favorite. He often made up funny lines during filming and brought a lot of joy to the set. He had great respect for Barbara Eden and Larry Hagman. He said that Barbara was always kind, professional, and never had a bad attitude. She stayed calm and positive even when things got difficult. Bill said that Larry Hagman was the best straight man he ever worked with. That means Larry was great at playing the serious role while Bill got to be the funny one. They made a great team, even if they didn't realize it at the time. Many years later, Bill and Larry met again in New York. Bill got emotional and told Larry how brilliant he had been. He said, "I didn't know it back then, but you were amazing." It was a touching moment between two old friends who had been through a lot together. Bill also shared that they used to make up scenes on the spot if something went wrong. Back in the day, television shows didn't have the big budgets or digital effects we see now. Everything had to be done by hand, with lots of creativity and teamwork. For example, when Jeannie blinked to make magic happen, the actors had to freeze in place. If someone moved by mistake, they would quickly rewrite the scene and find a way to make it work. That kind of quick thinking made the show feel fresh and exciting. Everyone on the set worked like a family, even though they had their own struggles. Barbara Eden was the heart of that family. She was always calm, kind, and supportive. Many people said she had no ego, no drama, and no bad behavior. She just wanted to do her best and make people smile. That kind of attitude made a big difference. It helped keep the show going, even during hard times. She never complained, not even when she had to climb ladders in high heels or work long hours while pregnant. Her dedication and grace made her a legend. Fans loved her not just because she was beautiful, but because she brought Jeannie to life in a way no one else could. She was bubbly, funny, and full of energy. She made the character more than just a magical Jeannie. She made her someone we cared about. Larry Hagman also deserves credit for making Major Nelson a believable and lovable character. Even with all his personal problems, he showed up, performed, and gave his best. Over time, people learned more about the pain he went through, and it made them respect him even more. The show was special because of the chemistry between Larry and Barbara. They had something rare, a connection that made their scenes feel real and fun. That's why it was so sad when the magic disappeared after the marriage storyline. Fans could feel that something important had been lost. The laughter wasn't as strong, the sparkle wasn't as bright, the dream was fading. Still, I Dream of Jeannie left a lasting impact on television. It showed that fantasy and comedy could mix together in a fun, family-friendly way. It proved that great actors and smart writing could create something timeless. The show may have ended because of a decision that broke the magic, but the love people feel for it has never gone away. Even today, people of all ages watch the reruns and smile. They remember the funny moments, the silly adventures, and the magical blink that made everything better. They also remember the lessons behind the scenes, the hard work, the friendship, and the creativity it took to bring the story to life. So why did I Dream of Jeannie officially end? The final blow came when the network forced the characters to get married. That one decision changed everything. It took away the charm, the mystery, and the tension that made the show special. It's a reminder that sometimes, outside pressure can hurt something that's working just fine. But even though the show ended, the magic never truly disappeared. Because as long as people keep watching, laughing, and dreaming, I Dream of Jeannie will never really be gone. Thank you for joining us on this journey, behind the scenes of one of TV's most magical shows. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who still believes in a little magic. Until next time, keep dreaming and don't forget to blink.